Welcome! In this biography, I'll explain how literacy has helped me get where I am today. From as early as I can remember, my parents have always been my primary literacy sponsors. They read me stories every night and even encouraged me to read stories to them. I have many fond memories of reading the Berenstain Bears, in particular. I have since done research on these books and discovered that they often show stereotypical gender and racial representations of characters. But even after these findings, my fond memories of reading have not been altered, as I got such joy from reading the stories. Robert Munsch was certainly my favorite author growing up, and I still enjoy reading his books. Thinking back, I was very fortunate that I had access to so many books in his collection. My socio-cultural perspective of my literacy in persons is that growing up in an urban, middle-class, English-speaking neighborhood, it was easy to find books in my first language. My family immigrated from Germany on my dad's side and Scotland on my mother's side, both 4 generations ago. So English has been our only language for many years. The historical impact of my literacy in persons is that my language learning has not been very diverse, as I've only been learning one language, but I was able to develop a strong sense of the English language at a young age. I also have many fond memories of creating my own stories. Often, an adult in my family would scribe my story and I would illustrate. Here my story was scribed by my maternal grandmother. As it may be clear in my story to the left, I loved going to the library for story time and to check out books. My family has always lived within walking distance of the Walnut Grove Library, so books have always been accessible in abundance. My brother and I were even in the newspaper one day during story time. I also loved writing and receiving letters as a child, mostly to my paternal grandparents and aunt in Kamloops. My family always made literacy enjoyable, and it was never a chore. I realize now that I was able to access and strengthen my literacy skills in a variety of ways. I was very lucky in that I was encouraged to express myself, and this was often done through writing and storytelling. I also had 2 pen pals growing up. Their names were Samantha and Leanna. This is a page from my childhood scrapbook of my pen pal Samantha. I never actually met her, but I remember sending plenty of letters to her, and we always exchanged photos, and it was very exciting. In writing to my pen pals, I was never concerned with grammar or spelling. I learned the conventions of writing, but in a way that was low stress. As I went through school, I had a number of literacy sponsors. I went to Dorothy Peacock Elementary, Walnut Grove Secondary, and Simon Fraser University. Within the walls of each of these buildings, I was very lucky to gain many literacy sponsors. Teachers, professors, librarians, technology teachers, and libraries acted as my sponsors in helping me develop my literacy further. Even throughout high school, I loved to read. I believe this is because of my upbringing, when reading was always encouraged and always a positive, enjoyable experience. The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants series, and it's kind of a funny story, were books that I read over and over and over again. I just couldn't get enough. I have developed such a love for many of my books that I have trouble paring down my bookshelf, as pictured here. As you may have noticed, reading for pleasure has been my most powerful literacy growing up. My current literacy practices are heavily influenced by my love of reading. Had I not enjoyed reading as a child, I may not be on the path I am on today, that is, to be an elementary teacher. My literacy practices now rely heavily on the ability to use technology to share my thoughts and ideas in both an academic and casual setting. I have also recently earned my English degree, which very often called for me to use reading and writing practices as well as communicating verbally. While the most powerful literacy in my life right now is probably technology, I am also becoming a literacy sponsor myself. I sponsor my students, which was a grade 6-7 class in my short practicum, and my nephews, Simon and Felix. I want to sponsor my students and nephews in a way that they can also grow up loving reading, as I believe this shapes one's perspective towards reading and writing as an adult. However, I realize that their literacy journey will be different from mine as technology is so present today. I have to develop my own technological literacy skills because my students in particular need to be exposed and knowledgeable in order to succeed in the media age. Thank you for joining me on my literacy journey.